these higher truths are so difficult to put into words that we have to use symbols to do this. Children are mentioned all the time through the Bible and all over in tons of other old texts, Gnostic texts, which just mean like non-specific spirituality in general, like if there was a single consciousness that was through everything. Those are what those texts believe in. But in Christianity specifically, you can find so many passages throughout the Bible that children are referenced. Now, there obviously must be some huge significance, and if you're not paying the attention that children are getting in Bible, the proper amount of value, then you're probably missing some really big keys that could be helping you make some big differences in your life and your religious practice and your own spirituality, and resulting in you feeling better and living a happier life. So what are children in the Bible? Because they're not actual children. Like many passages in, like I said, in the general religious text, these higher truths are so difficult to put into words that we have to use symbols to do this. So children is a very encompassing symbol, and that's why it's used so many times. So there are so many texts, I'll throw out two of them. Like you hear, it's better to cast yourself into the sea than chastise a child. Paraphrasing, of course, but you know the passage if you read the Bible, or yeah, you know the passage. So what's one element of being a child? Well, they're completely unopinionated because they're new on all the information that they're taking in. They have no preconceived notions about information, thus they can't be ignorant of information that they're coming in, or they can't be have pre-existing dislike for ideas that would result in you not seeing the value in them, as well as they don't have pre-existing hate for people that value these ideas. They love everybody. When a child is first coming out of the womb, it's not born in sin. It loves people undiscriminately. It doesn't understand racism that's taught, obviously. So, one element that you can see there in that passage is that children represent that you need to be unbiased when you're reading and trying to figure out the truth of everything. As well, I'm talking in a spiritual standpoint when you're reading the Bible or anything else. But in a day-to-day life, you need to be the person that's not being so polarizing and spreading your opinions with such vigor that like you're being rude to other people, basically. A child isn't rude. A child is innocent. That brings me to my other point, or to another point, that innocence is a very, very valuable trait to have. If you imagine yourself feeling like how Jesus would, you would feel innocence, right? And if you feel innocence, you feel good, right? I mean, God didn't associate these good emotions with these passages on accident. Like, you feel good when you're feeling innocent. And that feel good allows you to connect to other people. The problem is today is that a lot of people are bad people. And the Bible tells you as a child to be trusting. That's another characteristic of children. They trust people instantly. And the thing that I have to say about this to you guys, because I'm not telling you to trust people instantly, these are duality is a real thing in existence, and you need to understand the opposite to understand what something is. You need to understand what it is not to understand what it is, and you need to be on this ratio in exacting in like practicing these values in situations. But on the first instance you meet somebody, you should be showing them that you trust them in your facial expressions and in your feelings until you're proven otherwise. And that, like not that you're manipulating people, but like that's going to get people to like you more if you're trusting. Don't be the person that comes across as cold. Another thing, children are vulnerable. Vulnerable. They're super vulnerable. And man, people today are not like that. That's why there's so much hate. They get their feelings hurt and they get pissed. You should be vulnerable with who you are and then not be able to get hurt. It seems like maybe people are being vulnerable, but then they're still getting angry when they're being hurt. It's good to be vulnerable. It's good to be yourself. And that's what it means. You're being yourself and putting yourself out there for other people to possibly say that you suck. And you can't pass that off as not acting like yourself or trying to act cool because you are acting like yourself. And if you don't have any like self-esteem, you might think that that guy's opinion is the opinion that everybody has, you know? And that seems to be the case. But you should be vulnerable. And like I just said earlier, you need to understand the exact opposite to understand what it is to be vulnerable. You need to be powerful and vulnerable. There's power in vulnerability. Do you see all these things that you can associate with children? All these things. And you can probably think of more by yourself. And they're all right. Don't think that there is a right and wrong way. This knowledge of religion is so far past what most people can possibly even like begin to imagine. So these symbols are littered throughout the Bible, and whatever you have pop in your head while you're reading it is probably not only true, but the truth, because there's multiple truths, like in children, as I just showed you. The truth that right now you probably need to know the most. So I hope that helped. And, you know, like I said, there's probably a lot more interpretations, but I hope that lets you understand that when you're reading and doing your own spiritual work, that this stuff is fluid, this stuff is up in the air, and the only thing that you really can trust is what you feel inside when you have a thought or when you hear somebody else say something. Because that's the Holy Spirit, right? Or your intuition, or whatever you want to call it. Peace.